Thank you. You too.
What's Hanukkah like without snow?
What's that?
What's Hanukkah like without snow?
Snow.
Usually have snow.
It's just fine. Okay, good evening everybody, Friedman, Chanukah, and I'd like to discuss tonight a number of Shaylos have to do with Hilchas Chanukah, interesting Shaylos. Last week we spoke about one of the very basic Halachas of Chanukah, when you light the Neiros. Tonight I want to discuss about some Shaylos which you may not encounter ever on a Chanukah, or you may, and they're interesting discussions about in Hilchas Chanukah. Two main topics, we'll see if we have time for others. Okay, let's start with this one. We know that one can fulfill the mitzvah of Hadlakas Neiros with either with candles or with oil, with any type of oil, basically. The best thing, the primary way, the preferred method is to use Shemen Zayis, because the Nes of the Beis HaMikdash occurred with Shemen Zayis. That's the best way, but it's, as I said, you can be kind of with anything. So the Acharonim talk about the following situation. Let's say a person didn't have Shemen Zayis, and he didn't have any Shemen, all he had was candles. And fine, it's getting to be the time to light, so he goes over, okay, he takes his candles, and he starts setting them up in order to light them. And as he's working on it, he's setting them up, and he has them, pretty much has them in place, and he's going to light. Then somebody walks into his house and says, "Oh, look what I have for you. I found some Shemen Zayis. I know that you need it." And he brings him Shemen Zayis. And so now the question is, well, what does he do? Here, on the one hand, he hasn't lit yet. He hasn't done the mitzvah yet. Of course, once he did the mitzvah, there's no shayla if he lit candles already that night. So that's it. He fulfilled the mitzvah. It's over for that night. Tomorrow night, he could use the Shemen Zayis if it's still Chanukah tomorrow night. But for tonight, the mitzvah is accomplished, finished, and there's nothing more to do. But the question is, here he hasn't lit yet. He's just in the process of getting ready, setting it up. But he hasn't actually lit the candles. So should we say, so fine, take the Shemen Zayis, set it up and light that? Or no, do we say no? You're already being osik with this, you were meichen this, you prepared it, you got it ready. Perhaps it's not right. Perhaps it's a bizui mitzvah. Perhaps it's considered acting disgracefully to the mitzvah to put it aside when it's perfectly fine. For the key of the mitzvah, it's not a b'di'eved, it's just not the most muhuder. But once you started with it, stick with it. Now we know there's a big shayla about bizui mitzvah in a situation. Let's say a person has a mezuzah up on his doorpost, and then he gets an opportunity to put up a nice mezuzah. The mezuzah is on his kasher. It's kasher lechatchila. It's not a b'di'eved mezuzah, but it's not the most muhuder. Perhaps the sofa was rather new, and his ksav isn't the nicest, etc., etc. And now he gets an opportunity. Somebody brings him or he finds able to purchase or receive a mitzvah that's much nicer. So is it okay to simply take off the one that's there already and put this one up to mekayim the mitzvah with the more muhuder, or perhaps not? Perhaps it's mavaz of the mitzvah. So this discussion about that, discussion by tzitzis. Person has tzitzis on his beged, and he has an opportunity to change them for nicer tzitzis. They're still kosher, and there are a lot of halal. They could even be missing a little bit. They could be missing. They could even be in a matzav, in a situation where you wouldn't be allowed to put them on lechatchila. If you put them on that way, you wouldn't be able to say. But once they're on, and now they're torn up to a certain amount, two days in the Shulchan Aruch and Siman Yud Beis, exactly, they're still kosher. So should you change them, or should you not change them? Or let's say even they're perfectly good, they're not torn at all, but they're not the nicest, they're sort of dirty, you can't get them clean anymore, and whatever. So that's a discussion, and there is a firm basis there to be makel and switch it for another thing. But perhaps there's a chilik that over there, you've already used it. On the one hand, you could look at it either way. You could say, well, it's already in service, I better using it, so to stop it is a bigger design, or perhaps not. Perhaps once it served its time, it did. Especially in the case of the tzitzis, where they served you well, but now they're just not so nice anymore. So maybe it's not bad to switch them. Whereas here, when you started, you didn't even use the candles. You set them up, they're ready, and then you're just rejecting them for something else. Perhaps you shouldn't do that. So Taka, this Shaylos and Shuvah Shvus Yaakov, in the first Chelek, Simon Lamed Zayin, he says like that. He says, stick with it. You set them up, you're holding by using them, you haven't started the brachas or anything, but you're preparing them using them. It's not right. It's not right to turn aside. And he brings rayas from Shas. He doesn't just simply say it based on svara or gut feelings. He brings rayas from Shas that such a thing would be improper, inappropriate. Stick with what you have. That's what he passes. That's what Yaakov passes. The Chacham Tzvi, who was a contemporary, was told of this psak of the Shvus Yaakov, and the Chacham Tzvi disagreed. He was told the psak, he was told the rayas, maybe he saw a copy of the tshuva, and he disagreed. He disagreed with the psak of the Shvus Yaakov, and he held that his rayas were not rayas. And he writes a tshuva himself in Shalosh Shvus Chacham Tzvi Siman Mem Hey to take the opposite position and say that at this point you haven't started the mitzvah yet. Stop what you're doing, put them aside, and use the Shem and Zayis. This is his psak. The Shvus Yaakov was told about the Chacham Tzvi tshuva, and he wrote back another tshuva to defend himself and to defend his rights and to prove that at least l'chol hapachas you're not chayiv to do that. I believe that the Chacham Tzvi really titled that you should do that. It's the right thing to do. And so that much Shvus Yaakov said certainly that you don't have to do it, and maybe even it's not even right to do this. Is in the Chelik Beis of Shvus Yaakov Siman Lamed. He supports his original position that you stick with what you want. Okay, so now this whole machlokus, so we have 2 days Negdolei Achronim. Happens to be most the Achronim go with the Chacham Tzvi. That if you haven't gotten into it yet, if you haven't started using it, so there's nothing wrong. Although you made the hachanas, but there's nothing wrong with switching. But let's say you actually did begin the bracha. Let's say you started making the bracha for the Neiros Shel Shaiva. So then already the Shar Tshuva, both the Shar Tshuva and the Ber Heitev bring down these two Achronim in Tafrei Shai and Gimel, Sifka and Aleph for both of them. And the Shar Tshuva says that once you've already said the bracha, then for sure you shouldn't switch. And if you would want to, it could be even let's say the candles are not right. So you made a bracha with the candles, and all of a sudden somebody swept them away. Maybe the person who brought in the Shem and Zayis was so zealous and so anxious to use it that he grabbed away the candles and they went scattered all over the place or something. Or maybe someone in the house says, "Oh, here's Shem and Zayis," and and the candles are gone. They're broken. So you need to use the Shem and Zayis. And even if the Shem and Zayis is mamish ready to go, it's already set up with the wicks and everything. He says it can zayin. It's possible you'd have to make another bracha because you made the bracha over this chefza, over this menorah. It's not so pashut. He says the Shar Tshuva says that you could just simply do the mitzvah with another chefza without repeating the bracha. So that much he said for sure don't do. If you started the bracha already, you're already into the bracha. You've already said the Shem Hashem in the bracha, or certainly at a point where you can't end the bracha with lamdeni chukecha or the other eitzah. Then if I had to just continue the bracha and the brachos and use this one, and tomorrow I'll use the Shem and Zayis. The Aruch HaShulchan takes it a step further and says even if you didn't say Shem Hashem, just the fact that you began the Nusach HaBracha, it's enough to sort of give us like a kedusha. The Aruch HaShulchan paskins like the Chacham Tzvi in general in this shayla that if you didn't start at all, switch. But once you began the bracha, he says it's already Yared Kedusha to the Neiros. This is Aruch HaShulchan and Tafrei Shai and Gimel Sevav. It already is they were in this Kaddish already, and you shouldn't switch. Okay, so that's as far as that much is concerned about whether you should switch before you made the bracha or not. Rosh Shlomo Zalman was asked. It's brought in Halicha Shlomo. That in Chadik, Rosh Shlomo Zalman was asked the following shayla. Somebody wanted to bring a raya that against what my opening comment in this, the whole discussion was that for sure if you lit the Neiros Shashaiva, then there's nothing to talk about. You did the mitzvah, and like I said, you could use tomorrow, you could use the olive oil, but meanwhile tonight you've done the mitzvah. There's nothing to be honest. So somebody wanted to tie the knot like that. Somebody wrote to Shlomo Zalman or approached Shlomo Zalman and wanted to tie into that maybe even if you lit already. And it's even if they went out and now you have Shem and Zayis, as long as it's still within the Zman, maybe you should light again. Why? What are you gaining? We know you fulfilled the mitzvah. You did the mitzvah. What are you gaining? So, or why? I shouldn't say what are you gaining, but why should we think such a thing? Where would such a machshava come from? So he wanted to bring a raya from the Birkei Yosef. The Birkei Yosef is from the Chidah, one of his many svarim, one of his svarim in Halacha, on Shulchan Aruch, Simin, this is Simin Ein Reish Beis in Orach Chaim, which is Hilchos Kiddush, Friday night Kiddush, where he talks about the following situation. A person has 2 bottles of wine, and so he took one of them and he made Kiddush, Friday night Kiddush, over the wine from this bottle. And then somebody told him, this wine was Yayin Megula. Yayin Megula, what's Yayin Megula? It means wine that was left uncovered. Now, even if one is not choshesh by other mashkin, by water or milk or other things nowadays, is not choshesh for any problem with mashkin megula, meaning if you left your water uncovered or whatever it may be, or even wine uncovered, you just want to use it for non-religious purposes, you just want to make a bracha and drink it, even if we'll say we're not choshesh that there's any problem with it, although the Gemara says that yayin megulin is a sakana to drink, because the Gemara is talking about in places and times when there was shchiach nechashin, there would be snakes and perhaps other similar creatures, reptiles, whatever it is, that would possibly drink from it, take a drink from it, and leave behind some eris, leave behind some poison. So it's sakana. It's mamash sakana. It was in the time of the Gemara, and it may still be in some places, a sakana to drink anything mashkin megulim. But nowadays, that's not the case, or at least the Shulchan Aruch doesn't even bring this din. The Torah mentions it, and it's you do it that the Vilna Gaon held that it's like a takanas, it's like any other takanas chazal. It's a takanas chazal that you can't use mashkin megulin. So the Vilna Gaon held that even nowadays mashkin megulin should not be used. But halacha l'maisa, we, as I said, the Shulchan Aruch doesn't bring such a thing, and halacha l'maisa we paskin that it is okay to use them. But when it comes to wine for Kiddush or Havdalah or other kosher bracha, it's a separate inyan. Yayin Megula, which is left uncovered, is considered to lose its status, its level of freshness or whatever it is. It's not considered as meshubach once it's left Megula. Now it's a different amount of time. In the case of the Gemara, is talking about mamish. You left, even if you just took your eyes off it for like a very short amount of time, enough time for the snake to get there, take a drink, and hide back under wherever he came from, which is very short. Here we're talking about a longer time. How long is not determined. There's a discussion about how long. I'm not saying this necessarily halacha, but I believe there's a tshuva in the Divrei Malkiel. Recall that it says that, well, up to 20 minutes, it's for sure okay, implying that it could be that if it's even as little as 20 minutes. Now, this is just, we're here to point out this is something that requires as a hearers, because sometimes people do leave wine uncovered at the Shabbos table. They uncover it to make Kiddush, and then they leave the bottle open, the grape juice, the wine, they leave it uncovered, and it can sit there the whole meal uncovered, and then or sometimes what happens, sometimes there'll be wine given out at placed on the tables at a chasna or other affair, and a lot of it is left over at the end. And they'll give those bottles away. They're not going to take them back in the kitchen there, but they'll give them away. And I remember in the Kollel once in Chicago, there's a whole crate of bottles of wine came from some chasna. Anybody wants can take them, but they were uncovered. They're opened up and they sat there the whole night uncovered, and maybe the whole affair, and probably the whole night till the morning. So that already is a major shayla, whether it's appropriate to use that for kosher bracha. I mean, basically, it's not at that point. It's considered yayin megula and shouldn't be used. There's a discussion. Speaking of thinking, there's a discussion about what happens at the Pesach Seder when you fill the second kos. For the second of the Dal Kosas, which is the kos going on the Haggadah, and then it's left open for quite a bit of time. The Haggadah takes whatever it takes you. It takes probably more than 20 minutes, maybe a good hour or more. And in the meanwhile, the yayin is megula. So what about that? So I think Rosh Shlomo Zalman says that that's not a problem, if I recall, because it's yayin megula is talking about when it's just sitting alone. But when you're using it, he says, let's say you had a chazan who's making kiddush, a tremendous chazan. He's got a voice, and his kiddush takes him 20 minutes. It takes him 20 minutes to make Friday night kiddush because with all the voice control and so would you say, by the time he gets to the end of kiddush, it's yayin megula? No, we would never say that because he's making kiddush over the wine. So it's like that time doesn't count. So I think he says the same thing by the Pesach Seder. You're saying the Haggadah, over the kosher yayin. You're supposed to fill it up before Magid and say it over the kosher yayin.
What about Kollel Yaakov sitting on your table the whole Seder?
Okay, so
You pour it back into the bottle or no?
Interesting. So L'chara, That'd be a very good question. If you want to pour back and use it then for kosher bracha, I mean, again, it's for sure okay to drink it, even to make a bari pregafan. Question is to use it for the mitzvah. So for a mitzvah, for kiddush or havdalah, which is mostly what we do with wine. So that would be a good shayla. Would perhaps we'd say the same svara that it's being used. It's part of the seder. I don't know if it has to be filled. I mean, in my house we don't fill it until after benching, after or before. No, yeah, I think after, but certainly not before that. We don't fill it. We don't have it sitting open the whole time, and then we usually, give it out and people drink from it right away. But that would be a good shayla. Would we say that it's the same thing? That it's like if it's being used in the seder? I would venture to say probably yes, the same type of svara. In any case, so getting back to here, so this person was told that the wine that you made kiddush on was yain megula. The other bottle's not. The other bottle's been closed the whole time, but that bottle that you made kiddush on, it had been left open. But he made kiddush already. So you don't say kiddush. It's just not. It's not lechatchila. It's not preferred. You're not supposed to make it, but it doesn't passel your kiddush. So says the Birkei Yosef, nonetheless, you should say Kiddush over again. Because if it turns out that you made it with something which was not preferred, you should do it over again. What's the Birkei Yosef's raya? His raya is a Gemara Maseches Menachos, Daf Samach Daled Amud Aleph, where the Gemara says that, let's say it's talking about a case where it's Shabbos and Yontif or Rosh Chodesh, and a person, or the tzibor, shechted an animal for a carbon chata shel tzibor, for the carbon tamid, for the carbon tzibor rather, carbon musaf, whatever shel tzibor, and then they found a nicer animal, a more mahuditic animal, after they already shechted the first one. So the Gemara says they found a shmeina, in other words, shmeina me'erishona. You can shech the second one. It's Shabbos. You can't just randomly shech an animal. It has to be that it's only the carbon tzibor is the Shabbos. But to Sam Shecht another one when the first one was perfectly fine. Okay, this one's better. No, it's better. So if we had it first, we'd use it, but we didn't have it. I shechted this one. What's the het to shech on? Tered says, you see, there's a het. You're allowed to even be Michel Shabbos, or doing an act which would otherwise be deemed Michel Shabbos. You're allowed to do in order to build upon the mitzvah. So says the Birkei Yosef, you can repeat Kiddush. Mamish repeating the brachas. Besides the very off, you're repeating the bracha b'Kiddush Shabbos Friday night in order to improve the quality of your Kiddush. So Zak the Shoel, so Memela, maybe you should do that here too. You lit Chanukah licht with the Neir Shel Shaiva. Maybe you should go weiter and then improve and light them again with a bracha, with 2 brachas, 3 brachas, whatever. Zak the Shlomo Zalman avad nisht. You can't do it. And the Birkei Yosef is Tamua. Birkei Yosef is Tamua because like this we usually assume, we hold Halacha, you can't do Hidur after you've done the mitzvah. When you finish the mitzvah, there's no Hidur. It's the famous word from Chaim Brisker, well-known word. The person it's sukkahs, the person is two esrogim. One of them is a real beautiful esrog. The only problem is it might not be kosher. It's a suffix merkav. It might be a grafted esrog. So it might not be, but if it's kosher, it's a gem. The other one is not as nice, kosher, and it's for sure kosher. It's not a merkav. It's got the biggest, hechsherim on it. It's definitely kosher, but it's not quite as beautiful as the other one. So Chaim Brisker says, so what should you do? Which should you take? And if you should take both, which should you take first? So it says Chaim Brisker, take them both, but first take the one that is suffix merkav, the nicer one. Because if you take the less nice one first, which is vade kosher, then you fulfill the mitzvah for sure, and you can't add. You fulfilled it with that level, and by taking the nicer one later, you're doing nothing because you fulfilled the mitzvah. It's over. The mitzvah is over. So it adds nothing by taking the nice one. But if you take the nicer one first, okay. So if it's kosher, taka, if the Kodesh Baruch Hu knows it's kosher, you're mekayim the mitzvah. You're mekayim with the muhudik kasher. If it's not kosher, so I'll take the other one right away. Take the second one, I'll get the mitzvah then. But you must do it in that order, because once you do it the other order, you fulfill the mitzvah. So they ask the kasha, just parenthetically, they ask the kasha, what about a hefsek? Well, you made a bracha, how do you pick up the esrog that's a suffix? Maybe it's not kosher, and it's a hefsek. It says by smicha, it says if 2 people have animals, which they both have to bring as a carbon and do smicha, they have to, the samach yada, they have to do leaning on the head of the animal. You can only do it on your own animal, and my animal got mixed up with my friend's animal, so we can't make a bracha. I could do smicha on both animals, just in case, I don't know which was mine. I'll do both, but I can't make a bracha because if I make the bracha on smicha, asher kedishanu, whatever it is, well, I don't know what the bracha is, but if I make the bracha on the smicha and then I end up doing his animal first, it's a hefsek. Rashi says it. So somebody asked, I think they asked the Brisker Rav, so how could you pick up the suffix esrog? So Brisker Rav said, no, it's different. Over there you did nothing. If you did smich on the wrong animal, it's a 0. Here you at least picked up the lulav, with the Arabas and Adasim, and it says so you started the mitzvah. You definitely started the mitzvah. You might not got the home. You might not have gotten the home mitzvah yet because you didn't pick up the kosher esrog, maybe. But it's not a hefsek because you started the mitzvah. That's what he said. Okay. Anyway, so Zakir Shlomo Zalman, you can't. It's not going to help you to light again after you lit candles. You lit candles. It's worthless. It's not going to help you, and if you can't make a bracha. The Gemara Menachos says you can. You shechted the first, you shechted. So that's talking about before they only did the shechita, but they didn't bring the carbon yet. They didn't do zrikas hadam. They weren't in the scalper yet. The carbon has not yet been brought. Before the carbon's been brought, then you could still add. Okay, you shechted the first one. So, but now you have a nicer one. So now you can add. It's and even on Shabbos, it's kedai. It's kedai to add. But once you brought the carbon already with the and zrikas hadam and the carbon was complete, avada, you couldn't do it. The Gemara never would say on that you could do it again. You finished. It's finished. The mitzvah's done. Of course you can't do it again. Here the mitzvah's not done yet. You're in the middle. That's what he said. So as I'm saying, I'm just thinking. So maybe though it's a raya though, to the Chacham Tzvi, that even though you shechted it already, but you could still, since you're not finished with the mitzvah, you could push it aside and take another one. Maybe the Chacham Tzvi, maybe that's one of his rayas. Maybe it could be true. It could be that's one of his rayas. But okay, I'll call him. So just to sum up this section, once you lit the candles with the Neir Shel Shaiva, finished. Once you said, according to the Aruch HaShulchan, once you even said Baruch Atah, continue. According to Shar Tshuva, at least once you said Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu, said Baruch, for sure continue. If you didn't do any of that, you just set them up, then we have a machlokas. The Shvus Yaakov says make a switch. Shvus Yaakov says stick with what you have. The Chacham Tzvi says make a switch, and as I said, most poskim who we have, and say that you should say like the Chacham Tzvi that you should make the switch. Okay. New topic, new shaila. Mishnah Berurah, or I should say, Mishnah Berurah.
Just Hiddur? That's what it is? Or it's like more of a shaila and it's not just Hiddur, it's something else.
It's more than that.
It's more than that.
Right, but it's not ma'akev. And you definitely yotzi on it.
Right, but I'm saying it's not a kasher of Chaim. It's not necessarily
the Birkei
you're
Yosef.
not adding Hiddur, you're like being Yotzei another sheet or something like that. I don't know if that's the of Gilui. It's just Hiddur, or is it?
Well, but even if it's more, but if nobody, if there's no tzad that you aren't Yotzei, if you're for sure Yotzei, so
yeah, I don't know what you're doing.
So the mitzvah's finished, right? So he's saying the Birkei Yosef, he's saying Pasha Machas, you're asking. That's really what Rav Shlomo Zalman asked. He asked that this. He said this Birkei Yosef is Tamua, and then he brought the. I think unless I just wrote, I think he brought the Rechaim as a. Yeah, so okay, maybe say that's. You're doing the mitzvah over again, and okay. Okay, Siman Tafresh Ayin Vav talks about the brachas, Seder HaBrachas. So we have here a halacha as follows. Let's say a person is lighting the Chanukah, and he forgot to make the bracha or the brachas. He was very excited about the mitzvah. Very, very, and his kids are pushing him. When are we lighting? They're very excited. So finally, it's this man. He's watching his man, and he jumps right in, and he starts to light. To make the brachas. So let's say this happens on the fifth night. Okay, fifth night. He lit 2-3 candles, and then he realized he didn't make the brachas. What are you doing? So he didn't make the brachas. So says Rabbi Kiva Eger in a tshuva that at that point he could still say both brachas. He still say lahadlik ner shel Chanukah and Shas Nisim. Now, Rabbi Kiva Eger, he's chalka. This tshuva is actually is in the Madura Tinyana. Actually, the way they print them now with a lot of Halacha, I'm not sure. It used to be called Madura Tinyana Siman Yud Gimel. And this is his shaila. This is the shaila was posed to Rabbi Kiva Eger. The case here was this Beleil Ches. B'shachach levarich. The last night, b'shachach levarich had lakasa. V'rakodim shid lekulam niskar dedain lo birach im yesh levarich alo. So Rabbi Kiva Eger, we leave out for a second Alanis and Shechionu. I want to get back to that. But his main shaila is legabe. Could you still make the bracha of lahadlik ner? The bracha is a mitzvah. Once you lit all 8 of them, or whatever night is it, you lit, even the first night you lit just the one, for sure you can. Once you once you did the mitzvah, you can't make the bracha anymore. You were going to be tovel a keli, and you would tovel it. You forgot to make the bracha. It's a keli that needs to fill with the bracha, and you forgot to make the bracha. You can't make the bracha. You did the mitzvah already. But so here, Rabbi Kiva says that so if you lit all the candles, you can't make it lahadlik. But if you're in the middle, then he wants to be mitzvah for a few different svaras to say that you could make the bracha. First of all. What I just said is a davar pasha that you can't make the bracha afterwards. That's true halacha, but there is a day not like that. There's a day that you can make a bracha afterwards. Then, second of all, we know that there's such a thing called a mitzvah nimsheches. That means a mitzvah which continues. It's not just the one nice like tefillin. If you put on your tefillin already and you didn't make a bracha, you still wear it and you can still make a bracha. In fact, some people put on their tefillin before the zman. They're forced to go to work, or they're forced to daven early, I should say. Forced to daven early because they're going to work or some other legitimate tzarech. So they put on the tefillin something before Mishiyakir and they make the bracha later. So you're allowed to do that. Or if you forgot to make the bracha, it says you should move it a little bit. But the real justification, it's a mitzvah nimshechas. You're still fulfilling the mitzvah. It's not just putting it on and it's over. It's tzitzis or a talis. You could take the tzitzis in your hand and make the bracha because it's a mitzvah. You're continuing to fulfill the mitzvah. It's not a one-time thing. But so there's a tzad. Rabbi Kiva goes into. There's a tzad that Chanukah Ner is also called a mitzvah nimsheches too within the half hour. Although we say hadlaka oseh mitzvah, and once you literally fulfill the mitzvah, and if they go out kavse ein zakukla, but there's a tzad that you can look in the tshuva here. There's a tzad that's called a mitzvah nimshech. So he's mitzvah for that. And the third thing is mitzdarev, is that you still didn't do the heater. You still have to do the heater of lighting there 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You didn't. So there's a tzad in poskim that you can make a bracha on heater. You can make a bracha on heater. So he says, Rabbi says, well, maybe you'll tell me you want to bring a riot. Of course you can make a bracha on heater. We all do it in every Ashkenazi household that has more than one male. They make a bracha on heater because the father lights and then the kids light, so that's already making a bracha on heater. It's only mahadrin that you have to light that that more than one person lights. Otherwise, neri shabei so. So he says that's not a right because since the person had a das to light his own menorah, say a das not to be yotze b'chlal. He wasn't yotze with the balabas. So it's not just heater. When he's lighting it for the Iker Mitzvah now because he had mind not to be Yotze. He said, so it's not a raya, but there still is such a day that you can make a bracha on heater. So it's mitzvah of those three things. You can make a bracha on heater, you can make a bracha on, it's considered in the sheches, and maybe you can even make a bracha after the mitzvah. So as long as you're still in the middle, if you're not still in the middle, you lit all of them, he does not allow you to make the bracha lahadlik because if you don't have that last svara, which is maybe the main svara, that you can make a bracha on heater, he doesn't allow. But says Rabbi Kiva, what about the other two brachas? Shas Anisim and Shechianu? That was, he says, the father you could do. Even if you lit all the Eros, or the first night you lit the one, you could still make those brachas. Because, why? Because he says, Lo gara miroa. You're not worse than a roa, a person who can't light, or is walking in the street and he sees somebody else's menorah, so he can make a bracha. Shas Anisim Lavaseinu. And if it's the first night, Shechianu. So you're not worse than that? So it's the first night, you lit already, you didn't make the bracha, so for Falin, Lahalik Neres for Falin, you can't make the bracha tonight. But you can still make Shas Anisim and Shechianu. So that's what Rabbi Kiva says. And the Mishnah Berurah brings this down, Lahalacha, in Siman Tafresh, Ayin Vav, Sif Katan Dalet. The question is that earlier, the Mishnah Berurah was discussing the halachas of Shechianu. They didn't make it Shechianu. And he says over there, Mishnah Berurah says, the Mechaber says that if Imlo Birch Zman Belel Rishon, if you didn't make the bracha the first night, so you can do it the second night or whatever night you remember. By your hadlaka, if somebody realized I didn't make Shechianu any night yet. So tomorrow night when you light the candles, you say Shechianu. So says the Mishnah Berurah, but ve'im nizkar acha hadlaka, if you remember on any given night after you lit, on that night, einu mavarech balayla zu. Oh, that night you can't. Once you lit already, you can't make the bracha Shechianu that night. You have to wait for the next night. So can't make the bracha Shechianu, but 2 lines later, or two Mishnah Berurahs later, he brings Rabbi Kiva that says that you can. That lo gara miroa. That if you didn't say Shas Anisim or Shechianu, you could still make those 2 brachas with lo gara miroa. So since they steer, seems to be an outright stira in the Mishnah Berurah. So there are 2 terutzim that I've either seen or heard to this kasha. The first teretz is maybe a pretty pashta teretz. it just, I guess, a little bit missing in the words of Mishnah Berurah. First teretz is, why did Rabbi Akiva say you can make the brachas? Because he said lo gara miroa, right? So that's obviously speaking, as Rabbi Akiva himself says, it's only kol zman is still lit, as long as the candles are still lit. And I would add, actually, he uses the lashon still lit. I think Taka. He says, "Mikol malka mevarach osam." I'm sorry. Near the berachas al nisim shechanum im ira came below alf after miyad shehlik haner gomer mitzvah l'kas mikol mevarach osam. Now, so where does he say? Somewhere he uses the lashon if they're still lit. Somewhere, I think he does. But anyway, but I was going to add that it has to be still lit, and very possibly it has to be within the first half hour. Why? Because there's a shayla, but a roa. Can a roa make a bracha if you after a half hour? Roa, you're walking in the street and you see someone's there. You didn't get the light. You see someone's nearest lit, but they've been lit already an hour and they're still going. He's got a nice lot of oil still burning. Could you make a bracha or can't you? Meaning maybe the din of roa is only on the ikar mitzvah. After a half hour, we hold it's really no mitzvah. Maybe there's some person involved, but it's not really the mitzvah. He's yotzi the mitzvah. They only have to last a half an hour. So is it possible to take a bracha on after half hour? So years ago, I think we had the shayla when I was learning in the west side of Manhattan, many moons ago, in the mid-'80s. I remember we had the shayla, and we ended up sending the shayla. I wrote the shayla to Rabbi Friedman Greenblatt. He had a nephew who was in the Kollel, Rabbi Cohen, who was married to his niece, to a Greenblatt, a niece of his, and so we wrote him the shayla. So he brings in a tshuva. Could be that was that letter. I don't remember clearly now. We got a letter back to Ray. I don't remember exactly, but he has a tshuva in Chelik Beis Siman Kuf Pei Beis Os Tes. You can look it up, see what it's addressed to. I think it might be addressed to us. I just don't remember exactly. But anyway. He says that, one second, actually that's talking about the shayla, the steer just asked, but I think he has, one second, a different, I had it somewhere written down in Ramco. Okay, he has a shoe on this too, I just didn't bring out that. Didn't bring those notes. All right. Anyway, I think he brings the Zichron, but there are two Achronim that discuss it. The Hisarish Tshuva, who is a nechet, an anical of the Chasam Sofer, and also, can't remember now, one of the other Achronim discuss it, and they both say you cannot. That once past the half hour, you cannot make a Brechas Haroah. And Rosh Hashanah Shlomo says also Efshar that you can't. And anybody else that I've seen, I think Ninteteh Gabriel brings down that you can't. Anyone that I've seen says you cannot make a bracha after half hour, with the exception of in the Sefer Ashrei Ha'ish, which is a collection of psakim and things that Rabbi Yashiv wrote. Typically, it's things that he wrote. Almost without exception, that Sefer is just things that he wrote elsewhere that Rabbi Feinhandler gathered them together into these volumes of Ashrei Ha'ish. This particular shaila, he writes, Rabbi Yashiv responded as to his grandson, Rabbi Ariel Yashiv, asked him the question, and Rabbi Yashiv responded that you can. That you can. Even after half hour, you can still make the bracha. It's the only place I saw someone say you can make the bracha after half hour. Maybe the idea is because it's a hamshach of the mitzvah, or it's still Persumi Nisa. Obviously Persumi Nisa because you saw it and you want to make a bracha on it. But everyone else also says you can. Okay, so the first teretz of the Mishnah Berurah is that when the Mishnah Berurah says, Rabbi Akiva that says you can make the brachas is talking about as long as they're still lit. Maybe dark within a half hour, but they still have to be lit. If they're not lit, you can't make a brachas harah. The Mishnah Berurah before, when he said you can't make a shechianu anymore that night, is talking about when they're out already. They're out. So if they're out already, you can't make a shechianu. You can't make any brachas harah. That would be a pasha the yishuv. The only thing is it's chaser. The Mishnah Berurah Sivkan Beis just says v'nizker achar hadlaka. Sounds like even if it's 2 seconds after hadlaka, they're still burning. V'nizker achar hadlaka einu mevarach b'layla zuot. So seems to be a little chaser, but that's I guess one possibility of what he means. The other teretz, which I heard or saw, which is now the Shon Halachas, Chaim Kiyevsky in the Shon Halachas says. Asks this question, and he says a different teretz, and so do some others. That as follows: he wants to say that the din of the roa that he can make shasanisim and shechianu, the only time he can make a shechianu is if he's taka saying shasanisim. I mean, this standard case, a roa didn't. It's the first night he wasn't able to light it all, or maybe it's not the first night, but he was in a place where Nobody's like, poke this night number 3, Baruch Hashem, he sees some candles, finally, he found the Jewish home with some candles. So he's making Shas Anisim and Shechianu. Zog the Shon Alachas, the only time you can see Shechianu, because he's saying Shas Anisim, then you can continue the Shechianu. But if it's just a Shechianu, if he already said Shas Anisim, he can't. So for example, this case where the person lit, it's the case Michel is talking about, he just forgot Shechianu. He said loud there and Shas Anisim, he lit his menorah, and now he realizes he didn't make a Shechianu. So just there's no din roeh on Shechianu alone. That's his mechash. Now, why would that be? So, what would the svara be? Perhaps you need Shechianu needs something more to be chal on. Just the fact that you see the neiros perhaps is not enough. Maybe not enough of a connection. It's enough that it's mazka the nes. It reminds you of the nes. It said so you're allowed to make the bracha because you're as you remind the nes. And maybe you make shechianu, but just the shechianu alone is not. There's a shayla whether we make shechianu on the stam and the kedushas hayom. Michel talks about that on the kedushas and Chanukah, but you're not doing that here because you could this person Michel is not doing that. He'll light the next night and make the shechianu. So as kedushas he wouldn't do it. So just to do it as the roeh, that perhaps you can't do. You need something more to be tchalan. What's that? Sure. So that's this teretz is said by not just Reb Chaim Kanievsky, but also the Sefer Hilchas Chag B'Chag. In Hilchas Chanukah, Perek Yud, Os Katan 13, and I have in my notes that he brings maybe smuchin ledvar of midivrei hashilti giborim. I must admit I did not look it up now, but that's what I've written down here.
Now, the Jewish paper is talking about on the 8th night.
Right.
So when you have it on the 8th night, you can say Shachan, because you're not going to say tomorrow. And the Shur doesn't say that. He doesn't quote the figure that way. But if you have an option of making it tomorrow,
I mean, lo yiver is like because you have a better option.
He says
not that it's also. Not that it's also, just that you have a better option.
It's big deal because the case of Kiviger is the 8th night, so there you have no choice.
So here's the Sharet Tzin here that talks about do you make a bracha Yom. He's quoting Pischei Elam Hashem Shus Yaakov with Tzon Alomer Sheyir Levarich Zman. You should see to it to make the bracha B'Yom Acher Beis Hadlaka. Amnam Im Ira Zeh Belel Shmini. If this happened on the 8th night, Umimela Yisbata Legamrei Bercha Shechianu Tzarechiyun. This is where you can the after to come out by Alma Kaimel and this man Omer Fil Bashuk, just like by other Yom Tovim, you could say it in the middle of the street. To call Yaletzim Ayom, to have to do it in Bazeh, to call Yaletzim Azman the Chanukah, etc., etc. Yeah. And he says after that, he says he found the Meiri Michel Lahalik Vein B'Mokav Shev Shel Liros Yishom Shvivarach LaAtzma Shas Nisim Shech Yonu B'Leil Echad V'Shas Nisim B'Chol Leilos V'Advarim Nirim V'Tzarchin. So how would it play out? So we're saying maybe I'm talking about the other nights. The last night. Maybe Taka could say it. Okay, but he's not. But he applies Sarchian here. He's not associating that you could do it. And here he says for sure you can do it.
I'm saying you're not doing it b'shuk. You're doing it on the like on Mariah.
Yeah.
Is that better than waiting till the next night and doing it by the block?
Right. Okay, so maybe we'll just conclude. We have just a few more minutes. I'll share with you something I saw also in the Lichas Shlomo where he discusses that's a mitzvah of Chanukah, of that we make a bracha every night. Besides lahalik now, we make a bracha shas nisim lavasenu, and by Yamim as Mazeh. So he discusses what is it exactly we're making the bracha shas nisim on, and he spoke about this, and what is the ikar mitzvah there? What is the ikar mitzvah of Chanukah for? Now, it really sounds very much like the Gemara's kasha. The Gemara says kasha in Shabbos, Daf Chaf Aleph, Mai Chanukah, which Rashi says Alei Zeneis Kavua. But he brings a maral that says that the Gemara seems to be mashba that it's on the nes of the neiros. But he brings a maral that says it's very unusual that Chazal would make a nes make a mitzvah and a chi of hodah that we were zochet to mekayim a mitzvah. That you don't normally find. You normally find there's a chi of hodah when a person experienced the hatzalah. A person experienced some sort of nes that he was saved, he was spared. His life was spared, but a nes that he was zocheh to do a mitzvah is an unusual thing. So So the Maral the Maral says in the second teretz that really the Iker Nes that we're focusing on and the Chazal wanted us to give Shach and Adafa was the Nes of the Melchama, the Nitzchachan of the Melchama over the Avanim. However, at the time, B'Shas Maisa, the people didn't necessarily appreciate it as such a nace. They didn't see it as a nace. They saw it more of as a derech hatava. Even though to us it sounds like, if you look at the numbers, it sounds like a phenomenal nace. But Lamaisi, you never can tell. Sometimes strange things happen in combat and war, and there could be all sorts of situations where a smaller group is victorious over a bigger group for whatever reason. They didn't see it so much. They were able to more understand it and write it off as just teva. So Kosh Baruch Hu made, this is Maral says, the Kosh Baruch Hu made the nace of the Pach Shemen, which that was an undeniable nace. Yeah, Shemen only lasts so long. And here it's lasting and lasting and lasting, just enough, 8 times as long as it should have, just enough time until they were able to produce more Shemen. That everyone saw as a clear nace, and through that they were able to reflect back that this whole thing is derech nace, everything, the Melchama etc. So they were koveya that meant to do a Halacha zecher to the nace of the Pach Shemen in order that we should appreciate the nisim of the Melchama. So Shlomo Zalman says that this is in the Shlomo here in Perek Tes Zayin, in Chanukah Perek Tes Zayin Sif Tes. He says, "Iker ta'akanas chachamim lahadlik neres Chanukah hu kedei lahodos al yedei zeh al hanisim hagadolim sha'asa Kadosh Baruch Hu lavaseinu bayom ha'mohem," to thank Kadosh Baruch Hu for the great miracles that He did for us b'nitzachon ha'melchamos, in being victorious in the melchamos. And he explains on the bottom, he brings this Maral, and he has a lot to say on the bottom. V'lochein kavanas halei b'shas ha'hadlaka lahodus lahal Hashem al nisi ha'melchamos, that kavana, that you're thinking, that you're giving a praise to Kadosh Baruch Hu on the nisi ha'melchamos, who may ikra mitzvah. Meikra mitzvah is to think about that and to focus on it, that's what you're doing. And when you say Sha'asa Nisim Lavoseinu, you're thinking not just about the Nes of the Pach Hashem, but the Nes of the Melchama. You really should be thinking about and focused on that's what you're giving Shach. And that's, as he points out, I think many point this out, the Nes of the Melchama, the Nes of the Pach Hashem is not even mentioned, even in Haneres Halalu, which we say right away. We say, Ala Nisim Aflas, etc. And then V'chol Shemanis Mechanukah Kodesh, we don't mention the Nes, and even in Ala Nisim. Nisim, there's no mention. There's one line that says "V'hidliku neres b'chatzos kodshecha," which doesn't say very much about nes of 1 day to 8 days or anything like that. So it talks all about it, focuses on the Melchamas. So, and the idea being that the Melchama was what allowed us to continue living our lives as Yidden, as Torah Yidden. The Yavanim, as we know, wanted to be Mavatal Limit Torah, Mavatal Kiyum HaMitzvahs, some specifically, but in general, Eilchem Chelik B'Lekei Yisrael, that was their Matar, that was their whole goal. So by being successful in the Melchama, we overcame them, and we were able to reinstitute not just Hadlakas Neiros in the Mikdash, but reinstitute Limit Torah and everything else that goes along with it, and Taryag mitzvahs. So that's what we're being grateful for, not just this one mitzvah. We're grateful for the whole package, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu allowed us to be victorious in this Melchama, allowed us to continue serving Him, allowed us to learning His Torah and doing all the mitzvahs, and that's really what we should be focused on the entire Chanukah. We're saying Halam, we're saying El Nisim, and we like Neiros, focus on that tremendous Nitzachon, and that thanks we owe Hashem that we're able to still live our lives as Torah Yidden.